And welcome to this edition of Inside the Locker Room. I'm Gabe Farias.
And I'm Johnny Walker.
And Johnny, this week we're going to be talking about paying college athletes once again and the detrimental counter to that. According to NCAA brass, we're also going to be addressing Major League Baseball and the salary cap issue. I have kind of one thought on it. You have another.
Yes, I do. And finally, we'll be talking about college football analysis. All that and more on Inside the Locker Room.
And welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. I'm Gabe Farias, and this is Johnny
Yes,
Walker. Johnny, a few weeks ago we started talking about paying college athletes.
Yes,
we talked
we did.
about revenue sharing. We talked about solutions to a problem that's there systemically when you're talking about the NCAA and these basketball teams breaking the rules, paying these guys illegally. Why not just make it legal? We talked about it. The NCAA brass has addressed that. Specifically, Mark Emmert, the lead of the NCAA, he said, that's fine. We can pay college athletes, but if you pay college football players and college basketball players, really the two sports that would warrant that type of compensation, what will end up happening is you will start eliminating sports like wrestling. You'll eliminate sports like synchronized swimming or diving. He's saying that at the expense of paying college athletes in football and basketball, you're going to be eliminating other sports. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is that Mr. Emmert's found another cop-out, another excuse, another way to try to justify not paying college players.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. I'm always been and I will always be an advocate for all sports in college. I think it's a wonderful experience. I think it's a great experience for a lot of the kids, and I will always advocate for that. But having said that, there's absolutely no excuse with the amount of money that's being made both in football and in college basketball. There's absolutely no reason why you can't pay college players. They can do it. This is just another reason, along with 100 other reasons that they've given to justify why they're not paying college players.
You and I don't. By the way, have you noticed we look like a dance team? We're wearing like the same jacket.
Yeah, that's synchronized sports.
Future
talk.
shows. just holler at me, brother. Just holler at me, and that way we can figure it. I can do the blue. Anyways, getting back to my paying college athletes, we do look like a dance team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The counter to what you're saying, I'm going to agree with you about 90% of that. Mm-hmm. The 10% are the small Division I schools, the UIWs, the Sam Houston States. Mm-hmm. Specifically with college basketball, I don't necessarily think there's enough money to pay those players, pay those teams. Are you saying that when you pay college athletes, because we got to break this down to the core, you've got to come up with some formula so that the Alabamas and the Texases and the USCs don't get paid more than the Fresno States and the BYUs and some of these other guys? Are you saying that the level of athletes should get paid more, or do you think there should be a singular stipend per player per program?
To be honest with you, Gabe, I know they've always tried to throw that into the mix and try to justify that everybody's going to make the same amount of money. But this is a capitalist country.
I get it.
Not everybody's going to make the same amount of money. That's just the way that it is. So if you're at Alabama as opposed to Sam Houston State, of course you're going to make more money if you play at the University of Alabama. So and you're not going to make as much as playing at Sam Houston State. And that's just the way that it is. There's just no way that you're going to be able to make it equal. Now, they'll be happy to be able to get some money, but they won't be able to make as much as if they were making some of the Power 5 conferences, and that's just the way it is.
But you're going to kill. You will kill, especially college basketball. If you get paid more to go to Texas or to go to Villanova or to Kansas or to North Carolina or the teams that generate the most amount of revenues, Kentucky, those teams will consistently be in the Final Four. You will never see a team like Loyola Chicago in the Final Four. You will never again see a team like University of Maryland Baltimore College beat a team like Virginia in the first round. I don't mind necessarily paying college athletes. I just think there needs to be an equitable amount that you pay all athletes based on revenue sharing. That's based on what the TV contracts for these conferences make?
Well, unfortunately, when we're talking about the Power 5 conferences, they're going to generate more TV revenue.
They are, absolutely.
Bottom line.
Without a
So
doubt.
there's no way that you can justify Sam Houston State athletes making the same amount of money as Alabama. I'm using Alabama, but University of Texas athletes. There's no way you can justify that because they're not bringing in the revenue. You just can't justify that. Now, I think there should be a sliding scale, and we can try to make it as fair as we possibly can. But yes, you're going to make more money at the higher division level that you are, the more money that you're going to make.
Okay, so the argument for Mr. Emmett is that you're going to eliminate sports. Let's look at Rice, for instance. Sam Houston State is probably a bad example because they play different levels of Division I football.
Right.
But let's look at Rice. Okay, Rice, UT, USC, Alabama, theoretically are on the same playing field when it comes to the division that they play. Okay, what he's saying is that's fine. We can pay these teams, and sure, the UTs of the world and the Alabamas of the world and the SEC schools of the world and the Big Ten schools of the world. Is there still a Big Ten? Did I just use a?
Yeah, there's a Big Ten.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't date myself. Yeah. I almost said Southwest Conference. That would have been bad. But these schools, yeah, sure, they'll be able to keep all their sports because they have unlimited resources and unlimited amounts of money. But the Rices of the world, the teams that don't have the types of revenues to pay athletes and sustain a holistic program, they could potentially lose teams and lose sports. Do you think that's an accurate assessment, or do you think that maybe Mr. Emmert's playing with the numbers a little bit?
He's playing with the numbers. We talked about how the NCAA has a $105 million surplus, and that's why after all bills were paid. So there's plenty of money.
That's after the light bill's been paid.
Everything's
yes,
paid.
Sir. Okay,
all bills. He's made his $3 million salary. Yeah. We still have a $105 million surplus. So there's more than enough money that's being generated that can sustain all of these programs and still get college players paid. There's still more than enough money to do that. And I think that it's just a matter of making sure that we break it down, we come up with a system that's going to be fair. You'll still be able to pay players, and you'll still be able to keep all the programs in place. I just think that that's just another cop-out they use to justify not paying college players.
This is going to be one of those, I'm kind of agreeing with you, but I'm also looking at it from a bigger picture standpoint for specifically the smaller schools, the Sam Houston States, the UIWs, the Rices. I know TCU is probably a little bit bigger. The Fresno States,
Gabe, you got to be honest. You can't put them in the same category.
Yeah,
you can't. I mean, you just can't. They're not going to generate those kind of funds. They're not going to generate that kind of revenue. I mean, let's just be honest. That's just the way that it is. That doesn't mean that I think that they shouldn't get paid. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't continue to have programs. They're just not going to be able to generate the kind of revenue that the Power 5 conferences are going to generate. And of course, yes, they won't make as much money, but it is what it is. I mean, that's just how it is.
I think we're going to be talking about this a little bit.
Yes, we will.
Absolutely. We're going to go from the revenues of college sports to the revenues of Major League Baseball. Coming up next on Inside the Locker Room.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation.
America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
And welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Gabe Farias, Johnny Walker. Johnny, last segment we were talking about finances as it pertained to NCAA football and basketball, specifically Division I. Now, we're going to change course. We're going to talk about Major League Baseball. First pitch has just happened. The season has started. By the way, George Springer led off the season with
home run
for the Houston Astros.
First pitch.
But I want to talk specifically about the salary cap or the sands of the salary cap in Major League Baseball. There is not one. Now, a few years ago when they came up with the new collective bargaining agreement, they did come up with luxury tax penalties. If a team spends, I believe, $189 million, give or take, they start to incur a penalty to Major League Baseball. It's not a salary cap. A salary cap is you have X amount of dollars to spend and not a penny more. Right. If you spend more than that, we are going to penalize you heavily. The NFL football does it. NBA basketball does it. Major League Baseball does not. Last year in the League Championship Series, both of them, you had teams representing 4 of the largest cities on the planet. LA, Chicago, New York, and Houston. Now, the one anomaly to that was Houston. They spent about $122 million, but they've got a youthful, loaded team that they're going to have to spend dearly to keep moving forward. Jose Altuve signed a $100+ million deal to stay with the Astros. You've got Correa, you've got all these young guys.
Right.
The average salary cap between the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubs, and the Dodgers between $200 million and $170 million, give or take a couple of bucks.
Right.
The Milwaukee Brewers spend $60 million. I think fundamentally there's a problem with that. I think with the NBA, with the National Football League, you have these small market teams like Green Bay, like San Antonio. Every year, they've got a chance to go to a Super Bowl or win an NBA championship. That's not necessarily the case with Major League Baseball. Should there be a hard or even a soft cap in place in Major League Baseball?
No.
What?
No. Absolutely
Now,
not.
I'm going to say this.
No.
This is coming from the perspective of a player.
That's right.
Not a fan. Make yourself a fan of Milwaukee. Do you think that there should be a salary cap?
I'm going to make myself a fan and say that as a fan, I think that it's imperative that when you have professional teams, they need to be in a market that's feasible to be able to generate the revenue to keep it there. I don't think that we should feel sorry for small market places like Milwaukee.
Really?
No, I really don't.
Okay.
No, I don't think we should feel sorry for them at all. If your city or cannot generate the revenue that you need to be competitive with some of the other major cities, well, then you shouldn't have a major league program. It's that simple. You shouldn't have a major league team. There's plenty of cities that will fall in that genre, that will be able to generate those kind of funds, that are dying to have professional teams. San Antonio, that are dying to have professional teams that can't get them because Milwaukee's been there forever. I mean, they've had their team forever. So I don't want to use that as an excuse anymore. If you can't generate it, if it's too much for you, then you know what? Let that team go and let some other cities get opportunity to have professional teams.
A few years ago, Billy Beane came up with the Moneyball concept. It was a great movie. By the way, that was a fantastic
That was a good movie
with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. That wasn't on our list last week.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, that was a good movie.
That's a great movie. They came up with the Moneyball concept, which was basically bringing up high-level statistics and analytics and to basically buy runs, if you will. Not illegally, but to bring in players that could generate the type of offensive outputs. It worked sort of, because you still haven't had a team that's using that concept to win games, make it to the World Series, win a World Series. Do you think that there are other ways that teams can do it without spending money, or are you saying, man, these TV revenues are through the roof, just spend the money and not try and pocket it? It doesn't matter if you're a small market, you should have the money to spend on a good roster.
You should have money. Again, like I said, you should be able to small market. If you cannot compete from a financial standpoint, then you don't need to have a professional team. You shouldn't have to do that. I think that there's absolutely no reason why we cannot expand. We can't expand the market. We can get more cities in that are more conducive to be able to generate that kind of revenue. That's just my bottom feel. That's how I feel. I mean, I just think there's got to be a way to allow more markets to get involved in professional sports.
And my thought on this is, let's say Major League Baseball does say, you know what, we've got $150 million cap, because I think that's a fair number.
Why?
You look at the teams.
What's your justification? Why 150? Why can't it be 350?
I don't
understand.
I just think from a competitive standpoint, it's the same thing with football. Why do they set the number for football? Why do they set the number for basketball?
I don't think there should be.
Then the Spurs would never win a championship.
That's not true. No, that's not true. No, the Spurs are able to win championships because they put a good group of players with a great coaching staff and a great organization, and that's why they win.
But they are at or they exceed the salary cap each and every year because it is a fair and equitable salary cap that everyone across the board can maintain. We don't have Bill Gates owning the Spurs.
Okay.
Jerry
well then.
Buss doesn't own the Spurs. He's
Okay.
multi-billionaires. This is a
understand.
group of millionaires. Isn't that funny that we're saying it like this? This is a group of really rich people
Right.
that own the Spurs, but it's not a Bill Gates. It's not guys that are multi-billionaires that can say, you know what, I'm going to spend as much money I want to win. That's why these salary caps work in these small markets. You're saying...
We don't need to have the small markets.
So
We
you're
don't
saying
need
get rid of the
small markets.
Spurs?
I don't think San Antonio is a small market. San Antonio is one of the
It's the
10
seventh
largest.
It's the seventh largest
Yeah,
city
it's in the top 10 as far as the largest
But
city.
you
So we're not a
know,
small market.
Johnny.
We're not a small
We are a
market.
small television
Yeah,
market.
no, well, we could change that. It should be changed. I think that if you got the 7th largest city, we should be able to change the television market. All those kind of should go together. So I don't put San Antonio in a small market. There are other cities that I know are definitely small market, and they shouldn't have a professional team. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear all the crying. I know if you can't generate that kind of revenue, then you shouldn't have a team.
This is funny. I've got a really good friend of mine that I say, okay, I guess we're going to agree to disagree. It's like, no, I'm just disagreeing with you. I think this is just one of those, man, I'm not agreeing to nothing, man. You're wrong.
Well, no,
and I think you're telling me I'm wrong.
Well, Gabe, here's my problem with it. So the way that you're saying it and the way it's coming across to me is that you should feel sorry for them if you want to be able to let the small markets be able to get a buy.
Wow, man, you cold-blooded, my friend. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about analysts in college football. Coming up next on Inside.
Nothing to do this week? Don't miss another event. Go to blacksinsanantonio.com for our event calendar. The home of the largest business directory in San Antonio with an African American focus. Sign up today for our weekly e-blast and text message alerts. Help us make this a better community. Connect, empower, grow.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at SaveTheFood.com.
Hi, welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Gabe Farias and Johnny Walker.
Yes, sir.
Johnny, we're talking analysts.
Right.
NCAA football analysts. Lots of money, especially by the bigger programs, are being spent on these individuals. There was a story in the Associated Press that was picked up on that topic. Analysts providing high-level analysis for these college football programs. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we know that Nick Saban at Alabama and Dembo Sweeney at Clemson do a great job of using these analysts. They, especially at Alabama's got 9 analysts that are able to break down game plan and do everything that they need to do to prepare the team for their next opponent. Now, the way that it works, according to the NCAA, analysts are not able to interact with the players. They can't go on the field. They can't do anything actually with the players. But they can do everything that needs to be done behind the scenes. Now, teams do have the opportunity to have graduate assistants. Now, the graduate assistants, while they're also going to school, they also have the opportunity to actually go out on the field and work with work with the players. Right? Yeah, they're absolutely they're like student coaches. So the analysts have definitely changed the game, especially in regards to Alabama, where they've
What did you say? They have
head coaches.
9 of them?
They've got 9.
9.
So what they've done, and Nick Saban's brilliant. You know, he's the brilliant coach. Whenever a head football coach gets fired, he's hiring them as analysts on his football program. Pays them about $35,000. We know that these coaches' jobs, as far as money-wise, was guaranteed at the old school that they were at.
Oh, so they're
still getting paid.
They're getting the big money from the old school.
Right, and able to pay a small fee to be able to get some incredible service, years of service. Some of these coaches have been college coaches for 30 years.
What's an
he's
example
able to get them
of
involved.
one of the coaches that are doing that?
Butch Jones, the ex-Tennessee head football coach, is now an analyst for for Nick Saban. So he's able to get him for $35,000.
ironic.
And the University of Tennessee is still paying his $8.26 million salary. That's going to be paid out over the next couple of years.
So Tennessee is paying this guy to analyze against their own program and their own team in the SEC.
Yes.
Do you think that should be illegal? Do you think that hiring coaches that come from the same conferences, do you think there needs to be some sort of moratorium, maybe give a guy a year off? Or are you saying, hey, as you say, we live in a capitalistic society, this guy's got to make money?
It's fair game.
He needs a job?
It's fair game. No, I think it's fair game. I think that you're going to see a lot more programs that are going to use analysts. I know the University of Texas and Tom Herman, he's hired a couple of analysts, and it's probably the first time they've ever done that.
I was going to say,
there are going to be a lot more, especially these Power 5 conferences, that are going to utilize that to their advantage. They're trying to get every competitive advantage as they can. You know, again, this is amateur football.
Yeah.
Yeah, But
we're yes, I got you.
But we can hire 9 or 10 analysts and pay them a salary, and try to get every kind of competitive advantage that we can. So, is it fair? I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's fair as a whole. But you have institutions that are putting or athletic programs that are putting that kind of money aside to be able to bring that kind of service to their program.
Two points I'm going to bring up. Number one, what's the difference between an analyst and just a high-level scout? Is there a difference, or is that in essence?
As far as a scout?
Yeah, I mean, because obviously every football program, they've got scouts. They send teams out to go and look and break down. Now, are these analysts providing analysis for their own team, or are they going out and scouting other teams?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What are the services that they provide?
Yeah, they're definitely scouting. And this gives the coaches, the actual coaches who are out there for the team, it gives them an opportunity to work with the kids and focus on recruiting. Because while they're doing that, your analysts are basically analyzing every team, every opponent, what their tendencies down. Breaking everything down, looking at tendencies. I mean, they break down every single aspect of the opposing team. There's absolutely no question. We know what their tendencies are on 3rd down and 3. I mean, we know exactly what they're going to do or what they've done most of the time. So they spend a lot of hours, a lot of time preparing a plan, so to speak, so that when the head coaches get back in, they're able to have a game plan and they pretty much know what to expect and what the tendencies are of the upcoming opponent.
Which brings me back to my question, a couple of questions back. Should there be a moratorium on a coach coming from a school in the same conference breaking down what they've been doing? Because chances are, if this guy got popped mid-year, they're going to use the same offensive system because they're using the assistant head coach. Shouldn't there be a moratorium on even a year on hiring from within the conference?
No, it's fair game. It's fair game. The moratorium I would see is, why are you still paying him? He's working. That would be the moratorium, but it's fair game, Gabe. I mean, if you no longer wanted this coach and he's not the right person that you feel for your program,
you fired him.
Well, you fired him. So now he's looking for a job. So Nick Saban said, "Hey, come on, we got an analyst position here for you. Let's use the knowledge that you have. You've been coaching for 20 plus years. You've been a head football coach. I definitely can use that." And I think it's a great system for some of these head football coaches. It takes a lot of the pressure off of them. It just divvies up all the responsibilities and it gives them more time to focus on recruiting and actually developing a rapport and a relationship with some of their players.
I want to say that it was it Steve Scarsazian who was the coach at USC?
Got fired.
Gets fired. Or actually, does he get fired or does he quit?
He got fired.
Okay, well, he's no longer coaching. Nick Saban picks him up to become an analyst on his football team. At the same time, their offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin leaves to take a job in Florida. He hires Scarsazian to be the offensive coordinator. Can you transition from that role of analyst to coach?
Yes.
I guess you can, because you said there should be no interaction between analysts and players. I thought that was kind of a funny.
Well, once the coaching position, the NCAA allows college teams to have 10 coaches on staff. They have 10 coaches on staff. So at any time, if one coach leaves, there's always another coach to take your place. And if you've got an analyst who's already in place, who's already been developing a game plan, it's a perfect fit.
Sure.
Great situation for them, and Alabama was able to keep on moving. When
So
that
it's
happened.
based on the availability of a coaching spot.
Yes, a coaching spot. Right.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Dynamic topic, man. I appreciate you with the suggestion, man. Good stuff.
Yeah,
Let's get
good
wrap it
deal.
up, man. Wonderful.
Good deal.
All right, for Johnny Walker, I'm Gabe Faria saying thanks so much. We'll see you on the field next week.